Hey, I'm Jay Kumar, the BassBlaster, and this is your Seafoam Top 5 of the Week in Bass Fishing. Number 1. Will we see more power fishing and power baits next year, specifically on the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour? And they're going to 5 fish, so everybody's thinking, yeah, probably. I talked to Russ Lane, who fishes the Bass Pro Tour. He said he's looking forward to fishing more jigs, more crankbaits, more spinnerbaits, more swim baits. And then I talked to Jordan Lee, who's won in both formats, 5 fish and every fish. And he said, yeah, he thinks they'll be fishing more power baits or power fishing styles, but maybe not, because he's already been doing that himself personally in these tournaments to try and get a big bite to move up the standings. But either way, a lot of the guys I think are fishing more or expecting to fish more power techniques, which is fun for us to watch. Now, for a clue about what might happen on the Bass Pro Tour, BassMaster.com analyzed what the top 10 finishers in all the Elite Series tournaments this year fished. And in order, the top 5 baits and techniques were worms, but that includes drop-shotted worms, jigs, crankbaits, swim baits, and bladed jigs, which basically means the Z-Man chatterbait jackhammer. That sounds like power fishing to me. What do you think, Emperor Palpatine? Okay, he was probably the wrong guy to ask. Number 2. All right, counting down the top 10 best tournament bass fishing baits of all time. We're at number 8, going to number 1. And number 8 is a drop-shotted robo worm. When drop shots hit the West Coast from Japan, I believe it was in the 90s, guys like Aaron Martins and Brett Ayler started smashing fish with them and winning tournaments. Aaron was like a one-man force teaching us and his fellow pros about the drop shot and showing us how effective it was. And by the way, if you thought he loved fishing the drop shot, that's not necessarily true. One time he told me he didn't even like fishing it. I don't know if that was just his state of mind at the time, but he said it just gets bites. And that's what he was about as a pro fisherman. Aaron won tournaments drop-shotting robo-worms all over the country from 2007, his first bass win, to the One Bass US Open, more Bassmaster wins, and also a Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour win too. Based on Aaron's success with it alone, it almost could make this list, but it's number 8 on this list because it's helped many fishermen, a drop-shotted robo-worm, finish high in tournaments, including the top pros, many of whom still carry robo-worms in their boats no matter who they're sponsored by. Number 3. Hey, if you owned a spinnerbait company, what do you think your number 1 selling color would be? Chartreuse and white, maybe? Or maybe just solid white or a shad color? Nope. Stanley just posted their number 1 selling color of spinnerbait, and it's this color. It's called Golden Bream. I called John Hale at Stanley and asked him about it. He said he thinks it just mimics bait fish in general. I'd say it's kind of more like a bluegill, but okay, he would know better than me. And he said that he fishes it. It's his number 1 spinnerbait color that he picks up in every watercolor except for really muddy, which is real interesting. He said that when they came up with this color, they sent him to this color and a bunch of other colors to fishermen, dozens of fishermen all around the country, and asked them to fish these colors and give them feedback. And he said by far the number 1 color that everybody loved was that Golden Bream color. I think they came up with it in the 90s. He said, and I quote, "From day one, that Golden Bream was a winner. It doesn't matter where you're fishing, smallmouth, largemouth, spotted bass, they all eat it." Man, once I heard that, I was like,
shut up and take my money.
Number 4. A new fishing tackle tax? Well, not here yet. But France is rolling one out where manufacturers and sellers of all kinds of fishing equipment, baits, lures, hooks, weights, rods, reels, line, you name it, they all will have to pay basically what is a tax to a new federal agency that will supposedly use the money to help recycle these products. Sounds fishy and scammy to me, but what do you expect? Now, guess what? The punchline is that fishermen, them over there, would actually have to pay the tax because it's a pass-through. So basically, the cost of everything goes up. Could it happen here? Sure it could. Remember that crazy stuff that gets launched over in Europe ends up over here all the time. Stuff like way too many knives, forks, and spoons on the dinner table. Weird soccer haircuts. And worst of all, tennis! Oh, goodness me. Haha, that's for my wife. She loves tennis. Anyhow, keep on the lookout, peeps. Number 5. Do bass feel us? All right, what brought this out, other than, wondering about bass stuff all the time, is I was reading a little post on Game and Fish about dead sticking for bass and how sometimes when you want to dead stick it with your hand on the rod, they don't bite it, and then you lay the rod down on the deck of the boat and leave it be, and all of a sudden you got one on there. Why would that happen? That's happened to many people. That's one of my son's favorite ways to fish, actually, or was when he was younger. He'd just lay it down, set it, and forget it. A few minutes later, he'd have one on a lure. Not on bait, but on a lure. It reminded me of when I went fishing with this guide on the Niagara River, a guy named Frank Campbell, great guy. And he had light action spinning rods in his boat. He's a professional guide. And I asked him, why light action? And now bear in mind, he's taking people out to fish who don't fish, who couldn't feel a bite or know a rock from a bite or anything. And he said he gets more people to catch fish and land fish with that super light action rod. And that blew my mind, man. Because somehow, maybe I thought the fish didn't feel the people on the other end as much and kind of chomped on it and hooked themselves. How else can you figure that one? Anyway, something to consider. I don't know, maybe lay the rod down, your rod down in your boat, or fish with a lighter action rod, at least maybe if you're not getting bites or losing fish.
I'll set it and that's it.
That's all I got for you this week. Thank you, Seafoam. Go to BassBlaster.com or .rocks to subscribe to the awesome BassBlaster email. See you next week. God bless you.